It's a typical Friday afternoon. Your phone suddenly buzzes on the desk, illuminating the screen with a text from a friend, asking what your plans are for the weekend. Instantly, before you even process the question, a wave of sheer, unmistakable dread washes over you. You immediately start doing mental gymnastics, trying to craft the perfect, most believable excuse to stay exactly where you are. It's not because you're depressed. It's not because you have crippling social anxiety. And it's definitely not because you secretly hate your friends or lack social skills. It's simply because you would genuinely, passionately, and unapologetically rather be alone. For a very long time, society has looked at people who prefer their own company with a heavy dose of suspicion. If you want to spend a Saturday night alone reading, cooking, or just staring at the ceiling, people often assume you're sad, inherently weird, or one bad day away from becoming a movie supervillain. Mainstream culture celebrates the loud, the outgoing, and the hypersocial, leaving those who seek quiet to wonder if there is something fundamentally wrong with them. But recent breakthroughs in psychology and neuroscience are flipping this entire narrative upside down. Science has finally figured out why some people absolutely thrive in isolation, and it turns out, wanting to be alone isn't a personality flaw. It might actually be an evolutionary superpower. To understand this, we have to look at how the scientific community used to treat solitude. For decades, mainstream psychology lumped everyone who spent large amounts of time alone into one giant, concerning category. You were quickly labeled a loner, antisocial, or avoidant. Solitude was consistently treated as a symptom of a deeper psychological problem, never as a healthy end goal. But in 2016, researchers at the University of Buffalo noticed a massive blind spot in the science. They realized that psychologists were only studying people who were alone because they were scared of rejection or because they lacked the social skills to make friends. The researchers asked a revolutionary, surprisingly simple question: what about the people who just like being by themselves? This inquiry led to the identification of a completely different psychological trait, which they called unsociability. No, don't let the clinical-sounding name fool you. Being antisocial means you have active hostility toward other people and societal rules. Being avoidant means you are staying away from social situations out of deep-seated fear and anxiety. But unsociability is a calm, confident, and highly intentional preference for your own company. When researchers studied this specific group of people, the results were mind-blowing. These individuals weren't depressed, lonely, or isolated. In fact, they were scoring off the charts for creativity, emotional regulation, and overall life satisfaction. They weren't broken pieces desperately searching for a match. They were completely fine playing a solo game. So, what is actually happening inside the brain of someone who genuinely loves being alone? It all comes down to neurochemistry and how your brain processes rewards, specifically regarding the neurotransmitter dopamine. Extroverts have a brain chemistry that requires massive amounts of external stimulation to get a satisfying dopamine hit. They need the loud music, crowded rooms, the constant banter, and the high-energy environments to feel alive. Think of their brain like someone with a remarkably high spice tolerance. They need the whole ghost pepper just to feel a tingle. But people who love solitude, they have a highly sensitive dopamine system. To use the spice analogy, they only need a tiny dash of black pepper, and they're perfectly, optimally stimulated for the entire day. If they are thrown into a loud party, they don't get energized, they get rapidly overstimulated and overwhelmed. But the biological differences go even deeper than dopamine. People who thrive on solitude actually rely heavily on a completely different neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Like dopamine, acetylcholine is intimately linked to pleasure and reward, but it rewards internal processing rather than external stimulation. It makes you feel profoundly good when you turn your attention inward, think deeply, reflect on your day, and focus on complex tasks for long periods. This is exactly why your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex problem solving, self-reflection, and critical thinking, shows heightened activity when you're alone. You're not just sitting there staring blankly at a wall. Your brain is hosting a massive, highly productive festival of introspection and mental processing. Because of this unique brain chemistry, it's no coincidence that nearly every great thinker, inventor, and artist in human history demanded massive amounts of alone time. Nikola Tesla famously stated that the mind is sharper and keener in seclusion, arguing that originality thrives in uninterrupted solitude. Maya Angelou used to rent a bare, local hotel room and go there from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon every single day just to write in absolute silence, even though she owned a beautiful, comfortable home. When you isolate yourself from the endless noise of other people's opinions and demands, your brain activates something called the default mode network. This is the neurological state where daydreaming, imagination, and abstract dot connecting happen. Breakthrough ideas almost never happen in forced, corporate brainstorming sessions under fluorescent lights. They happen in the shower. They happen on solo walks at 2 in the morning. This happens when the world finally goes quiet enough for you to actually hear the brilliance of your own thoughts. However, before you declare yourself a solitary, misunderstood genius and permanently cancel all your plans for the rest of the year, it is crucial to pause and conduct a moment of complete, sometimes uncomfortable, honesty. There is a very fine, distinct line between healthy solitude and toxic isolation. The core question isn't whether you like being alone. The question is why you like being alone. The renowned psychologist Abraham Maslow noted that healthy solitude always comes from a place of abundance, never from a place of scarcity. You enjoy being alone because you are inherently secure in your social connections and your own self-worth. You aren't running away from the world, you are running toward yourself. You have to ask yourself, are you using solitude as an oasis, or are you using it as armor? If you spend time alone to recharge your batteries, to create art, to process complex emotions, or just to enjoy the profound peace of your own environment, that's the oasis. You are solidly in the healthy zone of unsociability. But if you are isolating yourself because it feels safer, because you are terrified of judgment, or because you are actively hiding from the inevitable vulnerability that comes with human connection, that is using solitude as a shield. And that is a defense mechanism worth exploring, perhaps with a therapist or a trusted confidant. The healthiest, most restorative relationship with being alone is one where it is a conscious, empowering choice, not a fearful hiding place. Here is perhaps the biggest plot twist of all. People who are incredibly comfortable being alone actually make some of the absolute best friends and romantic partners. For generations, society has sold us an incredibly toxic, codependent narrative about relationships. We are bombarded with phrases like "my other half" or "you complete me." This implies that we are all walking around like half-empty glasses, desperately trying to find someone else to pour their energy into us so we can finally be whole. People who genuinely love their own company completely reject this narrative. They know, deeply and intrinsically, that they are already a complete set. Research from Dr. Bella DiPaolo at UC Santa Barbara, who has spent her career studying single people, found that individuals who embrace solitude often have far more robust, authentic, and lasting connections with their communities than people who are chronically terrified of being single. The reason for this is simple intentionality, because solitary people don't rely on others to regulate their emotions or cure their boredom. Their relationships are based on desire rather than desperation. When a solitary person chooses to spend their Friday night with you, it is the ultimate, genuine compliment. They aren't hanging out with you to fix an empty void inside their own chest. They are hanging out with you because they genuinely value your presence, even more than they value their precious, much-loved alone time. They aren't clinging to you out of fear, they are actively choosing you out of love. When they show up, they bring their whole, recharged, centered self to the table because they have spent adequate time at their own table first. Fortunately, the world is slowly starting to wake up to the vital importance of this trait. In Japan, there is a cultural concept known as oitorosama, the art and enjoyment of doing things entirely alone. It is not just accepted, it is widely accommodated and celebrated. There are restaurants specifically designed with solo dining booths, movie theaters that cater to solitary viewers, and even solo karaoke rooms where you can sing your heart out in a soundproof box, without an ounce of judgment. They understand fundamentally that existing peacefully with yourself is a basic human need. Meanwhile, in much of the West, we still look at someone eating alone at a restaurant with an unfair sense of pity, as if they've suffered some great social tragedy. But the cultural tide is shifting. In our modern age of the 24th of July smartphone notifications, constant social media performance, and the exhausting expectation that you must always be available and on, the ability to sit quietly with your own mind is becoming a rare and highly sought-after skill. Choosing to intentionally unplug and be alone is perhaps the ultimate act of rebellion and radical self-care. It takes immense social intelligence to know the difference between genuine connection and exhausting codependency. So, if you are someone who eagerly anticipates cancelled plans and cherishes your quiet weekends, consider this your official, scientifically backed permission slip. You aren't weird, you aren't broken, and you certainly don't need fixing. Your brain is quite literally wired to find beauty, restoration, and profound inspiration in the quiet. The next time someone asks you why you're always alone, or why you'd rather stay home with a good book, instead of going to that loud, crowded party, you don't need to invent a fake excuse. You can confidently tell them about your unique dopamine sensitivity, the brilliant activation of your default mode network, and the deeply researched science of healthy unsociability. Or, if you want to keep it simple, you could just smile and say, because I really, truly enjoy my own company. And honestly, that is the most powerful answer of all.